All right, so let's bring on our first guest. This is going to be Boeken77. You can find him on Twitter at Boeken77. Just Boken or Steve if you want to call him directly. Let's go ahead and bring him on over here. Pow, there we go. Hello.
Hello. Can you guys hear me all right?
I can hear
Sounds
you.
great
Yeah.
to me.
Let me know in the chat at home if you guys can hear him. I can definitely try to up the volume and everything like that.
Sorry about the lighting.
You look pretty as always. So, introduce yourself first before we get going on this.
Sure. I'm Boken, Boken77 on Twitter. I've been in the FGC probably since 2010, but I started competing around 2012. And that's when I met probably like James Chan, Ultra David, probably at like a Yomakana 2012 or something like that, or some other tournaments like that. And I was part of a few esports teams back in the day, a few years ago.
Well, tell them which esports teams. I mean, come on.
I was a part of Echo Fox, part of that team. I was the team manager. Well, first I was just a Japanese translator for the team, and then I got promoted to the manager, and then I did that for about a year after that, and then the company went down, and I was with Panda Global for a short stint, just like a trial period type thing, and then I was contract working with Equinox, and that's
Nice.
just doing Japanese translation stuff, and that's what I've been doing, and I'm still doing I still teach Japanese to FGC players, and that's what I'm doing.
All right, sounds good. We've known each other for I don't know. Yeah, I would guess 2012 or something. It's been quite a while at this point. So we wanted to talk with you. I mean, I reached out to you last week. It was my bad. I reached out just too late, just to see if you could do it that day. You were busy already, so we wanted to do it this coming week. So again, like with all of our guests, I figured that we would just open up the floor and let you say what you'd like to say. So, floor is yours.
Great. Well, I suppose I'll start with how I've always felt like the fighting game community. I mean, I'm sure everyone said this last week, but it's probably the most melting pot-ish of the esports, I believe. And like the person who got me into the fighting game community with Street Fighter 4 in 2009 was an Asian guy. His name is John, but he goes by Baka. He was like a Third Strike player, and he brought me into the fighting game community. And the first tournament I went to was like at a white guy's house, and there was like a bunch of black people, Asian people, like it was all over, and I felt like, oh, this isn't just like a bunch of nerdy, greasy white-haired kids or white kids, and it's just so diverse. And so from that point, I started going to bigger tournaments, and the biggest tournament I think I went to, I don't know if you guys were around for the UFGC days or UFGT days back in the day. I know David and James were. I think that might have been where I met them first, technically, but that was my first big Chicago tournament, and it was the same thing. It was like a melting pot. If anything, I felt just so at home because that's what I grew up around. I guess I grew up around a mix. Like I went to school in the suburbs, so there's a lot of white people, and I've always felt like I was in, but not fully in with them. There's just something about it where you like they accept you, but like you don't feel like you're part of them for whatever reason that is. But I never felt that in the fighting game community because everyone is just so, it's just so diverse. And so, especially with recent events, I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota,
Ooh.
and I still live there right now. And as of the past month, there's been a little bit of heat going on with the George Floyd stuff and the Black Lives Matter stuff, and I've always thought that despite what's going on in my world in Minneapolis, the fighting game community is like a safe place. And it may not be like that for everyone, but for me personally, I've never had an experience where I felt like, oh, because of my skin color, I'm at a disadvantage, or I feel like I'm being treated a certain way. If anything, my skin color has elevated me to certain levels of notoriety. Like being a black dude who's fluent in Japanese is not super common, but in the fighting game community, there's a few of us, and so that's like that's part of what we are. We a lot of black people can do many things. Like a lot of us, there's commentators that are really influential and really high up there. There is streamers. There is, of course, there's a lot of the best players. A lot of the translators. Like and I feel like that's a stronghold that FGC has, and there's not another community, in my opinion, that that has that. Not as powerful, I should say. There's never been a time, like I've been at tournaments when it was like, oh, in the South, I was worried about, like, you know, if I went to like a final round, I'd never really been to the South, and the image I have of the South is not, you know, best for a lot of people of, you know, Black African descent, right? But I felt so safe at these tournaments, no matter where we were, and it was just like, I got you. Like, I feel like we're all brothers, more or less, and sisters, and whatever gender you identify with. I feel like everyone's just accepting, for the most part. I can only speak on being a black male. I can't speak on what it's like to be anything else besides that. But in my opinion, I feel like because it's such a powerful, I want to say it's like a pride. I don't know if it's a pride we have, but like I almost feel like we pride on being accepting for the most part of all, you know, races and genders, and I even feel like you know, there's no downside to that. And from the outside looking in, because I have a lot of, you know, I'm connected to a lot of people outside of the fighting game community, and when I show them just a glimpse of what it looks like, they're all amazed. They're just like, wow, it's people of every single race. Everyone is just so, we all have that one thing in common, which is fighting games, and it doesn't matter. Like, as long as you're here to play, we'll accept you. Like, it doesn't matter at all if, you know, what you look like. I mean, you might get hazed a little bit because if you're kind of a strange person, which I mean, strange person, right? But I mean, like, that's, you know, that's going to happen no matter what community you go to. But for the most part, I feel like it's just, there's nothing like it. And we need to keep that. Like, there's nothing that we can do, in my opinion. Like, if we go in a different direction with this, I feel like that's going to change. Like, if we go really corporate, which I think might happen soon, things might change a little bit in that regard. But I think FGC is so grassroots to where it won't change much. And I think we're just very powerful. And that's just how I feel. I mean, I can't wait for tournaments to start happening and meet with all of my, you know, I've got, like, you know, my Japanese brothers, you know, my old Echo Fox buddies, like, we're all over the place. Like, I feel like I'm accepted with the Japanese community to some extent, you know, and even they, like, because I can understand what they say, they never bad talk anybody because they're a certain race. They might bad talk a character, or like we all do, you know, but like, it's not like, nothing to do with like, oh, because he's black he won, or that white guy, oh man, like, no, none of that ever happens. So that's just how I feel. Like, there's nothing better than it. It's my home.
I'm glad that you have a positive experience with it, man. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you know, talking about this, FGC is not completely devoid of, you know, racism and misogyny and that kind of stuff like that. And while your experience has been, you know, very positive and very strong, do you feel like there's anything that could still be better? Like, what kind of things are you looking for, or is it just something that you're really happy as is?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we can do better. Like anything else, like, we definitely aren't the best when it comes to female competitors or people that are like misogyny is still a thing. I feel like that's even if it's online, it doesn't need to exist. Like, we don't, just because historically, you know, games have been like more of an old boys club, I feel, but there's no reason for that. There's no like, oh, man, woman, when in a fighting game, if you can press buttons, you can do it. You know, your brain is the power, not your physical ability. And so, yeah, we got to work on that. Like, misogyny is pretty, I wouldn't say it's like super bad, but it's pretty, like, we got to work on that. Like, I've seen some people that are like, don't want to join because of some girls who don't want to join because of, they've heard other experiences of being, you know, talked to via chats, and then like, or in person, they're kind of treated a certain way because like all these events are still I want to say 90% men, right? So it can be very intimidating, and we have to do our best to make everyone feel welcome in that regard too, not just with what race you are. And I think that's one of our biggest things we probably need to work on, is that.
Even outside of the fighting game community itself, what has it been like to be in Minneapolis? Are you in the city itself, or are you in the suburbs? And what's it been like over the last month living there?
So I live about 12 minutes away from downtown and up like where all the stuff happened. But even like close to my workplace, that's probably like 15 minutes away. There were cars being burned right outside the parking lot, like maybe 2 miles away. And it's been pretty wild, actually. It's like when things first started popping off at the end of May, it was like, oh. So I was in a tough spot because I've had bad experiences with police in my past, and I was doing nothing. Like I was the one that like I called the police because something happened to me, and then they were like, "You're in on it," and so I don't have a lot of faith in that system, and so it's like, okay, do I go out and protest and risk being treated differently by police than some of my other white friends or that are out there protesting, and even some of them got dogged out, but like. It's been pretty crazy with the protests, but now it's more like people are still protesting, but the riots have stopped. The riots stopped probably 3 weeks ago. Like, the riots were pretty crazy, and there was like a lot of this talk about the white supremacists were in like, you know, quote unquote black neighborhoods, right? And there's nothing going on in those neighborhoods. They were just rolling around, and I didn't feel super safe for like a week. So I just kind of laid low, I just left the house to get food and groceries, and that was it. And so it's just it's not just me that was like that. A lot of other black people, like, as soon as it started going off, everyone checking in, family members, everybody's like, oh, are you safe? Especially our family that lives right in the heat of things, right? You know, make sure their houses weren't getting looted, because some people's houses were getting looted and robbed, right? And it wasn't like a common thing, but it was happening. And so we had a lot to worry about. There was a lot of things going on.
Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, it's been it was similar to that in Los Angeles where I live too. We had a couple days of riots, maybe 3 days of riots, and businesses right across the street from where I live got hit. I spoke with the protesters, with the rioters in that sense, while they were doing it. So it was a little bit of a bizarre experience, but yeah, I think things where I live have been safer as well. I mean, the LA area has maybe been luckier in that respect than many other cities have. Not that we've been great, but like luckier than some for sure. Anyway, look, is there anything else that you would like to talk about or would like to say? It's pretty open floor.
I mean, I just feel like if we keep progressing, we're going to be in a good spot. And not that we haven't been progressing in the right direction, but with all the recent things about, like, you know, people getting banned for saying, you know, making very untasteful tweets and things like that. And I think that if we can't get rid of all people that are like that, because you never know who's like that, and there's always going to be people that are going to say those kind of things. But if we strive on not the zero tolerance with that, I mean, once tournaments start opening back up, it might be a good place, a better place, I should say. It's already a good, I mean, for the most part, a good place. We could be even better, and we could be even bigger, and I think that that we can do it. And I'm very proud to be in the FGC. Like, there's nothing I'm more proud of.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Look, of course, yeah. We're just trying to get perspectives from a bunch of our different friends. You know, everybody has their own perspective, so I think it's nice to talk with a bunch of people just to sort of suss it out and get different viewpoints.
Well, I mean, obviously, is there anything that you want to plug? You know, obviously, Echo Fox is not around anymore, so, you know, if you want to, like, you know, get up, let people know.
I mean, I'm still teaching Japanese, so if anyone does want to, you know, receive lessons, or if they're looking just to start their journey with Japanese, my DMs are open on Twitter, or you can email me. I think the email is also on my Twitter bio, so just let me know. Otherwise, I'm just I'm chilling and happy.
Awesome.
Playing Street Fighter 5 and Tekken.
Oh, good to hear it. Good to hear it.
All right, buddy. Let's get some games in soon.
We need to. I got my PC up and running, so let's make it happen.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Thanks a lot for joining.
Thanks a lot.
All right. So Steve's going to pop out of the video chat there. Nice to hear from Steve. Like I said, it was my bad that he didn't come on here last week in the first place, because I had asked him just too late, and he had already had plans. Right. So I appreciate that he was able to sort of put that off for a week and come back out this time.
Okay, there we go.
Shouts to Boeken. Every time I see that dude at a major, he's got a different beer for me to try. So I always appreciate that.
Oh, dang. That's perfect for you, because I know, like, every time we travel someplace, you always try to find a new beer to try, so...